There is no such thing as unimportant work, because the whole humanity can be seen as one living organism that just operates together. The same way that in your body there are different environments for different bacteria, there are different processes running and different living creatures sustaining that processes, the same way every person operates in humanity, sustaining its processes. That's why we have natural leaders. That's why we have natural initiators. That's why we have people who are prone to do mechanic work, something with their hands, but they're extremely good at it. And when everyone occupies their space, when everyone is doing what they're designed to do, this is when we start operating as one. And this is when we start moving synchronistically. So I want you to drop all the ideas that you should be somewhere, that you should be doing something, that you should be someone else. And I want you to instead look at yourself and ask the question, why am I here on this earth? Which part do I belong to? Where exactly do I fit in this big mechanism of humanity? And how do I make it move forward? Because there is no such thing as unimportant work. Even now, you can see Bonnie Blue, for example. People are trying to humiliate her, but she is not ashamed because this is who she is. And you can shame her all you want, but if there was no porn industry, if there were no prostitutes, whores, or like people who create this type of content, what would happen? People would start creating this type of content because this is needed, because there are people who need to watch that, who want to watch that, because at some point she is helping other people to maybe get away from certain parts of their life or simply have fun, and she is needed in her place. When you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, you cannot be ashamed of yourself. You cannot experience guilt. You cannot experience shame. You cannot experience any kind of negative emotions because once you get to that place, you know who you are. And once you get to that place, you accept yourself unconditionally. This is why exactly you become successful because the world starts accepting you as well. Whatever that job is, you can think that doing some paperwork, that doing certain documents, translating certain things is not good enough for you. You can think that driving a bus or cleaning the street is something that you are too good for. But ask yourself a question, what would happen if there were no people like that who are doing this job? We would not survive. And as soon as you become a part of this big organism, of this big mechanism called humanity, you become abundant. Because the same way that every person has different features in themselves that can make them successful and that can make them occupy their perfect spot in this living organism, the same way every person has his own needs about what is needed in terms of money, in terms of emotional support, in terms of any kind of support that is needed in order for them to keep doing their job. So when you step into the spot that you were supposed to step in, all these things they follow automatically. If you're supposed to have a lot of money, if through you humanity will benefit, if through you having a lot of money humanity will benefit, you will have a lot of money. This is why if you look at rich people, you will find out that they are helping community a lot. They're donating, they're doing a lot of charity. People who are truly successful spend a lot of their time and money in order to help others because they are occupying their true spot. Because in this mechanism, they are needed to occupy that spot in order to provide support for other people. And when you catch that, when you look at someone who is seemingly not that successful, but if you manage to find someone who is doing perfectly what they are supposed to be doing, and the criteria to recognize it is the following: they're fulfilled with their life, they're happy with what they're doing, and they're comfortable within themselves. So when you find such a person, even though they will not have a lot of money, they will still be helping others from their spot. They will have just enough in order to provide that support for others, in order for humanity to keep going, in order for that mechanism to keep running. And you will find it everywhere. Meanwhile, if you take a person who is seemingly successful, who has a lot of money, but that person is miserable, that person is just surviving, that person is doing all kind of backflips in order to sustain that wealth, their family is suffering, their emotional health, their mental health is at the all-time low, but they are there, you will not find that pattern. They will not be helping others. They will not be helping humanity to move forward in any kind of way because they simply do not occupy their spot. So when you try to be successful, when you're bending over backwards, waking up at 4 a.m., trying to get to a certain place that you think you should be at, I want you to ask yourself, why exactly am I doing that? I want you to look it in the eye, because if you're honest enough with yourself, you will see that it is coming from fear. You will see that any kind of this behavior is coming from a deep-seated insecurity, of deep-seated beliefs that you are not worthy by yourself. This is why you're trying to prove something. This is why you're trying to prove something to others as well as to yourself. Because you are trying to find that validation, you're trying to find that success outside of yourself. But it is just impossible. Because you are successful by yourself. You are needed here. You are needed in this mechanism in order for it to keep running. This whole agenda that we have, this whole propaganda that we have, that you have to follow your goals, that you have to make this 5-year plan or 1 month plan or even 1 day plan, and then you have get up and follow it no matter what, no matter how you feel. You have to work out, you have to work hard, and then you have to get to this step and then to that step and then to the next step in order to prove that you are not a loser. This is all fear-based. And I want you to recognize it. Because why else would people sacrifice their precious time, sacrifice their precious life in order to achieve things that they do not feel happy about inside, that do not make them feel happy inside of themselves, simply because they're running away from themselves? When you run away from yourself, several things happen. First of all, the further you run, the harder it is for you to run. The more you step out of yourself, the more you step out of that place designed specifically for you in this mechanism, the more energy it takes for you to sustain your way of life. Because imagine how much energy it takes to lie to yourself that hard. When you are living your authentic life, it takes no energy, it takes no effort. All the efforts that you encounter in terms of challenges, in terms of obstacles, is some efforts that you're willing to put in because you're having fun, because you're creating your reality. You can know this from your relationship history, for example. If you had any successful relationship, meaning that you were happy in them, recognize how it happened without any effort, how it happened without your need to prove anything to anyone. If you had certain success at your job where everything just magically worked out, a certain project, you got hired in the place that you always wanted to work in, recognize how it happened without any effort. You did not have to swim against the flow, against the current. You did not have to move mountains in order to be there. It simply happened. And if you did put any effort, it's because you were willing to, it's because you were enjoying, because you were excited to put it. This is the same what applies to you running away from your life. The harder it is for you to sustain that life, the further away you are from your true self. And sincere people, people who are sensitive, people who have these fragile feelings inside of themselves, they may think that they're suffering. They may think, oh my God, why other people live a normal life and I just cannot settle for it because I feel bad inside. They are just honest with themselves to admit that. So the more you run away from yourself, the harder it becomes for you to sustain this kind of life. And the second thing is that nothing works out the more you run away. And basically, the second thing just follows from the first one, because the more you chase something, and when you're running from yourself, you're chasing something external, because why else would you abandon yourself? The more you chase something, the more it runs away from you. Because this is just the law of the nature. This is energetical law. When you push, another thing pulls away. So the more you run away from yourself, the more energy it takes for you to keep chasing, to keep running, the harder it becomes. And that's why everything starts collapsing at some point. This is just a bubble that is meant to break. It is meant to break at some point because it is simply unsustainable. And then you start thinking, oh my God, I already ran away so far. I already did this, and that. You're stuck in that linear paradigm of time. And you start remembering all the effort that you put in order for that thing to work out. You start getting more and more frustrated. You start saying, no, it cannot be this way. I have to catch that. I have to make that work. And it runs away even further from you. And that moment where everything breaks can feel like the lowest of the low for you because your ego is breaking, but it is actually the birth of the new you. It is actually the best thing that can happen to you because as soon as that happens, you have almost no other choice. And if you choose something else, life will again force you to come back to this choice. You have no other choice except to come back home to yourself. When you come back home to yourself, when you occupy exactly the place that is designed for you in this mechanism, everything just comes to you. It has always been trying to reach you, you were simply not home. So when you finally arrive home, it can finally reach you. It can finally come to you without any effort that you have to put in. When you come back home to yourself, when you're on this journey, you have this period of time when you simply cannot get rid of your thoughts, when you cannot get rid of distractions in your mind. But it is not because you're not focused on what exactly you are doing. It is not because this thing, your activity that you are doing at this time is wrong for you. It is simply because you have this habit of abandoning yourself. When you have been abandoning yourself for your whole life, it takes a lot of rewiring in your brain and it takes a lot of patterns to destroy for you to stop doing that. So even when you step on your authentic path, even when you start coming home, you will get distracted. You will still have this one foot outside trying to prove something to someone because that state of being at home feels too peaceful for you. It feels too sincere, too happy. It feels like something that you cannot afford. When you have been taught your whole life that you have to live in fear, that you have to behave a certain way, that you have to reach certain achievements, that you have to reach certain external merits, it feels weird to drop all of that. It feels too good to be true. It feels like a fairy tale. You have been struggling your whole life, and all of the sudden, you're stepping into a life that does not need that struggle. All of the sudden, you're stepping into a life where you're simply happy with yourself, when you can hug yourself, when you can tell yourself, I do not need that external protection because I'm protected inside. Because no matter what happens in external reality, I have myself. Because no matter what happens in external reality, it will actually show me where I am still abandoning myself if I'm doing so I can benefit from it. You are stepping into your true power. And people who are powerless, who have made a victim out of you unconsciously because they have been victims themselves, they will not like it because your power is reminding them of their lack of power. They will try to pull you back and you will feel bad. You will feel bad because you will still have these attachments to these other people. You will think, they live this way, they raised me, I have been with them my whole life, or a big part of my past. We have walked together. How can I abandon them right now? But you are not abandoning them. You are coming home to yourself. They're simply not there. They are abandoning themselves, and they are trying to make you abandon yourself as well, because misery loves company. So you're not actually betraying them. You're not actually doing anything bad to them. In fact, you're doing the best things that you can do. You're showing them that they have this option too. You're showing them what it's like to live without fear, to live in true power, to live in true self empowerment, to live knowing that life has your back because life has created you, because God has created you, because life is flowing through you. So, how can it give up on you? It is just impossible. It created you. The fact that it created you means that you are worthy of that creation. If you were worthless, if you were powerless, if there was nothing for you to be doing here, no matter how on a superficial level your job feels unimportant, no matter how small it seems, creation has made you. So you deserve to be here. So without you, this creation wouldn't be complete. You step in that power. You know that. And that power is bigger than any fear. That power is bigger than any ego. That power is bigger than any kind of your life plan, because all your life plans can only come from your head. And this power is coming from the source itself, from something that cannot be destroyed, from something that cannot be beaten. And when you step into that power, all the darkness automatically disappears, because light doesn't have to fight the darkness. Light simply is. Light simply exists, and it is enough for the darkness to disappear. And that's exactly what happens when you step into that power. Your fear and all the negative vibrations, everything that you were trying so hard to run away from, it simply disappears. Because now, instead of running away from it, instead of trying to beat darkness with the darkness, you have a weapon that is able to destroy all that without any fight. You have a weapon that is destroying all that by the mere fact of its existence. And this is a beautiful thing.